Okay, so let's start our class. I think actually the temperature is really high. So last class I think we talked about locational arbitrage, and for locational arbitrage it's relatively straightforward, right? So this class I think I will talk about triangular arbitrage one more time, just serve as a review purpose. Triangular arbitrage means that we're gonna have two non-US dollar currency and one US dollar currency, like a US dollar currency. So in total, three different currencies: US dollar and two non-US dollar currencies. And then the cross exchange rate. Do you still remember the definition of cross exchange rate? It's an exchange rate between two non-US dollar currencies, right? So the cross exchange rate is wrongly priced. So the bank lists a cross exchange rate that is either undervalue one currency or overvalue one currency. That's the situation. Why we have this arbitrage opportunity. Let's look at here. This example we have seen it, and I just want to go through it one more time. So a bank has quoted the British pound and 1.6 at $1.6. That's direct quotation. This $1.6 per unit of British pound is between British pound and the US dollar. Okay, so it's British pound and the US dollar. Malaysia ringgit 0.2, that's also direct quotation. It's between US dollar and the Malaysia ringgit. And then the cross exchange rate. So just remember, this cross exchange rate is a quote provided by the bank. The bank provided this quote. It means that if you have one British pound, you go to the bank will give you 8.1 Malaysia ringgit. And if you have 8.1 Malaysia ringgit, then you can get one British pound. This is the cross exchange rate that we can trade British pound and Malaysia ringgit. Okay, so these two two non-US dollar currencies exchange rate we call the cross exchange rate. And then our first task to check whether we have arbitrage opportunity or not is that we're gonna use this two direct quotation to derive a cross exchange rate, so that we call it the implied cross exchange rate by those two direct quotations. So from two direct quotations, we're gonna find 1 pound only equals to 8 Malaysia ringgit. From the direct quotation, 1 pound only equals to 8 Malaysia ringgit. But according to the bank's quotation, what bank listed for buy and sell Malaysia ringgit and pound? We're gonna find that 1 pound equals to 8.1 Malaysia ringgit, which means in the cross exchange rate listed by the bank, we found 1 pound can exchange for more Malaysia ringgit, right? According to the direct quotation, it should be only 8 Malaysia ringgit. But according to the cross exchange rate listed by the bank, 1 pound can exchange for 8.1 Malaysia ringgit. You can exchange more Malaysia ringgit. In this case, we found that British pound is overpriced in the market price. And I think that's the key point. When you do the triangular arbitrage, the rest step is just to follow the steps provided. Just to follow the steps. The only step that you need to think about by yourself is which currency is overpriced. Okay, as long as you can figure out which currency is overpriced, you should be fine. And then we're gonna convert the US dollar to the overpriced currency. So it's 10, if we have 10,000, we're gonna convert it to 6,250 British pound. Then we're gonna convert British pound to Malaysia ringgit. But look at here, we have two cross exchange rate. Which we're gonna use? We use the one provided by the bank. Okay, the one we can trade. So it's this 1 pound equals to 8.1. So it's a market cross exchange rate. We have 50,625 Malaysia ringgit. And then the last step is convert Malaysia ringgit to US dollar. Then we can find out the dollar profit as well as returns. So that's the triangular arbitrage. Any question here? All good. And another thing we need to know is that triangular arbitrage is not tied up with any length of time. You don't need to wait. All the transactions can be done in minutes, as long as your server is fast enough. Okay. So if we account for bid-ask spread, so first step we use US dollar to purchase pound. Pound is the currency that so when we have bid-ask spread, we have bid rate and ask rate. So we have a table that I wish you could remember or at least put on your formula sheet, right? We have bid price and ask price. And then we have the bank. And then the multinational corporation or you. And when we talk about buy and sell, it will be for direct quotation. It will be the quotation for the non-US dollar currency. So for bid is bank buy pound or Malaysia ringgit if it's a direct quotation. And ask is bank's sell price, sell British pound. Okay, when we for the direct quotation, we talk about the non-US dollar currency. And the multinational corporation gonna sell at bid and buy at ask. But for cross exchange rate, remember cross exchange rate is A's value in B or A's value with respect to B. Then here, when we talk about buy and sell, we talk about buy A or sell A. Just want to make it clear. And then so we're gonna use dollar to buy pound, means that we're gonna buy at ask price. So when there's a lot of arbitrator keep buying, then we found the bank will increase its ask price of British pound for the direct quotation. The first step involves direct quotation. And the participants, the second step, use pound to purchase Malaysia ringgit. Because when we quoted is pound in Malaysia ringgit. So when we use pound to purchase Malaysia ringgit, which means that we sell pound. We sell pound at the bid price. Bank is gonna reduce its bid price of British pound with respect to the ringgit. And finally, we sell Malaysia ringgit. So we sell at bid price. So that's how you're gonna change the bid and ask price accordingly for those transactions, right? So when a lot of participants buy pound, pound's ask rate will go up. That's the net effect of those arbitrage transactions. When participants sell pound to purchase Malaysia ringgit, the cross exchange rate of pound in Malaysia ringgit bid price will be lower because people keep selling. And then finally, when we sell Malaysia ringgit, the bid price of Malaysia ringgit will be lower. So any question here? Okay, so let's look at what if we have bid ask spread? So the value of British pound In US dollar, bid price is 1.6, ask price is 1.61. The value of Malaysia ringgit in US dollar, bid price is 0.2, ask price is 0.201. The value of British pound in Malaysia ringgit, so bid price is 8.1, ask price is 8.2. So first step, again, we need to figure out which currency in the market price, market cross exchange rate. So the quotation provided here is the market cross exchange rate. So you can directly trade this. We want to ask which currency, Malaysia ringgit or British pound, is overpriced in the cross exchange rate. So we're gonna calculate the bid price. Just be careful about here. It's not that the bid of British pound divided by bid of Malaysia ringgit and ask divided by ask. It will be crossed. So when we calculate the cross exchange rate, it will be the bid cross exchange rate will be the bid price of British pound divided by ask rate of Malaysia ringgit. So it's 7.96. And for ask rate, it will be ask rate of British pound divided by bid rate of Malaysia ringgit. We need to cross it. Okay. So for the exam, you can just remember that when we calculate the cross exchange rate, we need to cross it. And the rest, I will quickly go through what's the reason. I mean, I have taught this class this is my 8th year to teach this multinational business finance. There was one student after the rate. So I bet most of you think you're fine with knowing these rules, right? But still, I will present the reason just in case anyone is curious about it. So the bid price of British pound in Malaysia ringgit means that the bank is willing to pay Malaysia ringgit to buy British pound, because the bid price is the bank gonna want to buy British pound, like A in B, want by A. If bank want to buy 1 British pound based on the direct quotation of British pound, bank is willing to pay 1.6 US dollar. To determine how many units of Malaysia ringgit the bank is willing to pay in exchange for 1.6, we need to consider the ask quote for Malaysia ringgit, right? So the ask quote for Malaysia ringgit is 0.201, meaning that the bank is selling Malaysia ringgit to receive US dollar, then selling dollars for British pound. So the calculation will be 1.6 divided by the ask rate of Malaysia ringgit. So the bid of the cross exchange rate is 7.96. And the bank is willing to buy 1 British pound using 7.96 Malaysia ringgit. Second page shows the ask rate of cross exchange rate. So the ask price of British pound in Malaysia ringgit means the bank is willing to sell British pound in exchange for Malaysia ringgit. So if bank want to sell $1 based on the direct quotation, the bank receive 1.61 US dollar. That's the ask price of Malaysia ringgit. And to determine how many units of Malaysia ringgit the bank buys using 1.61, we need to consider the bid quotation of Malaysia ringgit. The bid quotation is 0.2, means that the bank is gonna use 1.62 to buy Malaysia ringgit. So the calculation use 1.61 divided by 0.2. That's 8.05. So the bank is willing to sell 1 British pound and in exchange for 8.05 Malaysia ringgit. So that is basically the reason that why when we calculate, we need to cross it. Any question here? So after we do the calculations, again, for this semester, you as you have no process, that's enough. Okay. So just if you cannot understand the reason, just remember when you calculate your process. So in the cross exchange rate here, the British pound is overpriced because no matter whether it's bid price or ask price, £1 can always exchange for more Malaysia ringgit in the market price. Then we're gonna convert US dollar to British pound, which is the overpriced one. So we're gonna kind of buy British pound at ask rate. Then we're gonna convert British pound to Malaysia ringgit. It means that we sell British pound, bank buy British pound, which is bid price. So we can exchange for 50,310.558 Malaysia ringgit. And then finally, we're gonna sell Malaysia ringgit. Bank will buy Malaysia ringgit at 0.2. So that's our arbitrage dollar profit. So it's 62.11, and the return is the ending value minus beginning value divided by beginning value is 0.6211%. So that is after we factor in bid-ask spread. So we're gonna find that the dollar profit is much lower now, and the return itself is also much lower now. Any questions? So for triangular arbitrage, the realignment and force the exchange rate back to the equilibrium, especially the market cross exchange rate will be set correctly. So the third type of arbitrage is called the covered interest arbitrage. It's a process of capitalize on interest rate differential between two countries. For example, if you say like Eurozone has higher interest rate, you want to invest in Euro, right? Invest in Euro. If you convert the US dollar into Euro in a deposit in a Eurozone bank, you're gonna earn a higher return, like higher interest. However, what you worries is that when you because this will you need to wait for at least a couple months, right? Because deposit, you need to deposit and wait, then you can earn interest. You cannot just deposit 1 minute and withdraw. The bank will not give you any interest. They probably give you penalty. Okay. So that's why for the covered interest arbitrage, you're gonna need to invest and wait for a couple months or a couple years even. For cities, you can invest in 5 years, 10 years. And what you worry is that when the deposit matures and you receive euros, and when you convert it back to US dollar, you're gonna suffer loss due to the exchange rate fluctuation. When euro depreciated against the US dollar, when the deposit matures after 1 year or several years, that's what you really worry. So that's why you're gonna capitalize the difference between interest rate between two countries, but in the meantime, you're gonna use a future contract or forward contract to hedge the position against the exchange rate risk. I mean, forward contract is more suitable for multinational corporation who has a bank to collaborate, right? So the bank always provides a forward contract. For individual investors, you can use the futures, but then the future contracts probably cannot hedge your position fully. Let's say each contract is 125,000, but you invest 140,000. Then there are some positions is unhedged. So we right now use forward contract for simplicity. For a higher level of class, we need to calculate if there's some position is unhedged, what will be your position, and if some position is overhedged, but that's for higher level of cost. So let's look at this example. You desire to capitalize on relatively high rate of interest in UK and have fund available for 90 days. This is, I think, less common for individual investors, but more common for multinational corporations. Probably multinational corporations need to pay their suppliers 90 days from now, but they do not want to let their money sit idle. So that's why they want to capitalize on higher interest rate. So you have 800,000 to invest. The current spot rate of pound is 1.6. 90-day forward rate on pound is 1.61. And the 90-day interest rate for US is 2%, for UK is 4%. And what you're gonna do is that on day one, you sell your US dollar, convert it to British pound on the spot market. The spot rate is 1.6. So you're gonna have 500,000 British pound. You're gonna deposit this 500,000 British pound in the British bank. And then you're gonna earn higher return because the US interest rate is 2%, but the UK interest rate is 4%. So you're gonna earn 4% of 500,000 British pound. Your interest payment will be 20,000 British pound. So in total, when the deposit matures after 90 days, you will have 520,000 British pound in total, as principal and interest add together. And in the meantime, on day one, you're gonna sell a British pound forward contract. Why is it sell? Why would we sell British pound forward contract? Why don't we buy British pound forward contract? I can give you a little time. You can discuss with your client. Why here we do sell instead of buy?
Focusing on US dollars, so you sell 20,000 euros.
Yes, so because you do not want British pound, you live in US, right? And you want US dollars. When the deposit matures, you must convert British pound into US dollars so you can use it. And we're gonna sell 520,000 British pound because it's not definitely only you is doing this, are doing this. There are a lot of arbitrageurs doing this. So this will put a downward pressure on the forward rate. The forward rate is 1.61. So this 1.61 gonna declining gradually. And in 90 days when the deposit matures, you're gonna fulfill your forward contract obligation. You're gonna deliver this 520,000 British pound to the bank. And the bank is gonna pay you based on the forward rate, 37,200 US dollar. So the dollar profit will be 37,200, and the return, when we calculate it, it actually slightly higher than 4%. So 4.65%. The 6.65% more is due to the difference between forward rate and the spot rate. Okay. Who benefit from the current interest arbitrage? This is a question that you're gonna see a lot in the exam. So just be careful about this. So who benefit from the current interest arbitrage? US investor gonna benefit from. Why? Because the UK investor, they just invest domestic. Why would they do current interest arbitrage, right? So only US investor who has lower interest rate benefit from it. Okay. So the realignment basically is to set the forward rate properly. So the realignment is focused on the forward rate. The forward rate is likely to experience most, if not all, of the adjustment needed to achieve realignment. So let's look at this. Because we said there will be downward pressure on forward rate. People keep selling forward rate. And the forward rate declines to 1.5692. 1.5692. And then let's see what's going on. So on day one, we have 800,000 US dollar. The spot rate is 1.6. So basically we found that by selling 800,000 US dollar, we can get 500,000 British pound. We deposit in the British bank and earn 4%. So end up we have 520,000 British pound. And on day one, we keep selling forward the contract. In 90 days, when the deposit matures, you're gonna deliver this 520,000 British pound to the bank. And how much US dollar you're gonna receive with this new forward rate? I'm gonna give you a little time. Please do the calculation. How much US dollar you're gonna receive here?
Would it be 832,000?
800, but the forward rate is much lower. It's not 61, it's 1.5692. So the amount you mentioned is when forward rate is 1.61. Yes. Thank you very much. So it will be 520,000 times the new forward rate. And can you calculate the return? Can you calculate your arbitrage return?
What are we at?
What are you at?
Okay, 1.998%.
So it's approximately equals to 2%. Okay, I'm gonna give you a little time. Please discuss with your classmates. So with a return of 2%, will you as an arbitrator continue to cover interest arbitrage? My question is, with this 2% return, will you do the covered interest arbitrage? Okay, so I'm gonna start to collect the feedback probably from here. Do you think you're gonna do the cover interest arbitrage? No. US interest rate is 2%. Will you do it?
No.
No. How about this side? No. So okay, the answer is no. So you will not do it because why would you do so many transactions and earn 2% return? You just invest the domestic, right? Account for a bid ask spread. So let's say if you have 100,000 to invest for 1 year, will you benefit from engaging in cover interest arbitrage? We have euro spot rate, forward rate, deposit rate, and loan rate. So we found that interest on euro is slightly higher than interest on dollars. So we're gonna convert 100,000 US dollar to euros. So basically we buy euros. We buy euros at bid price or ask price. We buy euros. Yes, we buy euros means the bank gonna sell euros, right? Bank sell euros as ask rate, so it will be 1.13. And the euros interest rate is 6.5. So end up we have 9,420, 94,247.79. Then we're gonna sell euros for US dollar on the forward contract. So when we sell euros, we'll sell euros at bid rate or ask rate. When we sell euros, we sell it at bid rate or ask rate. So basically, we sell means bank buy at bid rate. So we're gonna multiply with 1.12, and we're gonna find that the return actually is lower than the interest rate on US dollar. So we will not do cover interest arbitrage after we count for the bid ask spread. And for cover interest arbitrage, the timing of realignment may require several transactions before realignment is complete. And the cover interest arbitrage can also used by non-US dollar investors. So we're gonna see it in chapter 7 class. So any question for cover interest arbitrage? So comparison of arbitrage effects. So the locational arbitrage will ensure direct quotation set properly, like the price will be similar across banks in different locations. Triangular arbitrage ensure cross exchange rate are properly set. And the cover interest arbitrage ensure the foreign exchange rate, the forward exchange rate are properly set. And we need to know that any price discrepancy will trigger arbitrage, which should eliminate the discrepancy. And the conclusion, arbitrage tends to allow for more orderly foreign exchange market. So basically, due to the arbitrage activities, the market price becomes relatively like more properly set and more reasonable. And how arbitrage reduce transaction costs? For example, locational arbitrage limits the difference in the spot exchange rate of quotation cross location. Well, cover interest arbitrage ensures the forward rate is properly priced. A multinational corporation's manager should be able to avoid excessive transaction costs. Like if one location the quotation is much higher than multinational corporation probably will suffer higher cost. And this is the figures to show the three types of arbitrage. So the first one is locational arbitrage. It's capitalized the discrepancy of exchange rate across locations. Triangle arbitrage capitalizes the discrepancy across exchange rate. And cover interest arbitrage capitalizes the discrepancy between the forward rate and the interest rate. So we have some practice. The first one is locational arbitrage. We have April Bank and ZY and Bank. If you have 100,000 US dollars, how do you profit? So I'm gonna give you a little time. You can work on this to see whether you can find out the answer. Okay, please work on this practice. Okay, so we're gonna buy at Acre Bank and sell at ZYF Bank. So when it's not a 1.63 minus 1.61. So it will be that we sell US dollar to buy British pound at ask rate. So it will be 100,000 divided by 1.61. So the British pound amount we have is 62,111.8. Then we're gonna convert British pound into sell British pound by US dollar at Z1 and bank. So we're gonna multiply the British pound with the bid price 1.63. So it's 101,242.24, and then we're gonna find that our return is 1.24%. Any questions? So just to remember, the condition is the bid price of one location is higher than the ask price of another. Okay, so we have the second price. Assume that the bank has quoted the British pound at 1.59, Malaysia rate is 0.2. Cross exchange rate is 1 pound equals to 8.2 Malaysia rate. Can you first find out the implied cross exchange rate? Okay, so please do the practice. Otherwise, I'm gonna invite you sing a song in the front. Okay, so do the first one. Find out the cross exchange rate uses two direct quotations.
Oh, that's right. She can put the title of the secret herself. Just also.
Yeah, but it's still listening.
Okay, what do you get for the cross exchange rate between pound and Malaysia ringgit if you use direct quotation here? Yeah, 7.95. So it's 1.959 divided by 0.2. And then in the cross exchange rate, this is the market price. We found 1 pound equals to 8.2. So basically British pound is overpriced. I mean, as I said, for triangular arbitrage, found out the overpriced currency is the most important thing. So we're gonna convert the US dollar to pound. So use 10,000 divided by 1.59. Then convert pound to Malaysia ringgit. So it's the amount of British pound multiply with the market price. So multiply with 8.2. So it's 51,572.33. Then convert Malaysia ringgit into US dollar by the direct quotation 0.2. So we're gonna find that the return, the dollar profit is 314.5. The return is 3.145. So any question? Okay, if no question, we have cover interest arbitrage. Again, I'm gonna give you a little time, let you work on the cover interest arbitrage. So I put the steps here. You can follow the steps and then find out the return from the cover interest arbitrage. Okay, I think now you get this. So, it's 100,000 divided by the ask rate. So that's 90,909. Then each year we're gonna earn 5%. And then we're gonna sell your forward contract at a bid rate. So basically, and from that end up we have 103,090.91. So the interest rate, the return we earn is 3.09. Because it's still higher than 2%, we will keep doing cover interest. Any question for the cover interest arbitrage calculation? No, they're all good. Okay, I think that's basically chapter 7 class 1, and I'm gonna move to chapter 7 class 2. We are almost there. So chapter 7 class 2, we're gonna introduce a theory called the interest rate parity. So cannot measure when interest rate change, what happens to the exchange rate between two currencies. So the formula is over here. But let's look at the cover interest arbitrage first, because the theory is derived from cover interest arbitrage. First, we found that we have the following information. We have 100,000 US dollars to invest. And the current spot rate for British pound is 1.4. The 90-day forward rate of British pound is also 1.4. Okay, so right now the spot rate and the forward rate is the same. The 90-day interest rate in US is 2%, and in UK is 6%. And then what we're gonna do is that first, we're gonna convert 100,000 US dollars to British pound. And what we have is 71,428.57. And we're gonna deposit this amount of British pound in the bank. We earn 6% return. So end up when the deposit matures, our total amount of British pound is 75,740.28. I think for this step, there's no problem with that. And on day one, we're gonna again sell this amount of British pound. This is gonna put a downward pressure on the forward rate. On day 90, when the deposit matures, you can sell for the British pound, and then the bank will give you US dollar. And the US dollar amount is determined by the forward rate, so it will be this amount times 1.4. So this is a forward rate, it's not a spot rate. So it will be 100 around 106,000. If we calculate the return is 6%. Okay, so my question is, who benefited from the cover interest arbitrage in this situation? We have US investor and UK investor. Who benefited from the cover interest arbitrage? Let me randomly call some names, and if you correctly answer it, I'm gonna give you a bonus, okay? So, Alex. Okay, thank you very much. So, US investor will benefit from the cover interest arbitrage. The reason is for British investor, they can invest domestically and earn 6% rate. Okay, so as we know that by keep selling forward contract, British pound forward rate then goes down. It has downward pressure on the price. So we're gonna find that the 90-day forward rate declines from 1.4 to 1.372. Okay, today's spot rate is 1.4, but the forward rate is lower. The spot rate is still 1.4, but the forward rate decreased from 1.4 to 1.372. And then, of course, the first step is the same. And on day one, we're gonna again sell 75,740.28 British pound of 90-day forward. This is gonna again put a downward pressure on the forward rate. On day 90, you can fulfill your forward contract obligation by converting this amount of British pound into how many units of US dollar. I'm gonna give you a little time, let you do the calculation, then I'm gonna again call your names. If you correctly answer the question, I will give you some total refund. Ready to go? So Krista,
Is it 103,879.99 cents?
so yeah, I just round up a little bit, but thank you very much. So when we calculated the returns around 3.88%. So it will be 103,880 minus 100,000 divided by 100,000. Sorry, so it's 3.88%. Do you think the US investor will keep conduct cover interest arbitrage? Ethan didn't. The question is, do you think the US investor will keep doing the cover interest arbitrage? Yes, why?
Oh, wait, sorry, that's fine.
The US interest rate, I want to give you a little bit more information. US interest rate is 2%. The cover interest arbitrage return is 3.88%.
Okay, yeah, so.
They will keep doing it?
Yeah.
What's the reason?
Higher.
So next, like the forward rate of British pound declines to 1.34717. So the first two steps is the same. Okay. Can you find out how much US dollar you're gonna have with the new forward rate? Adam Imiger.
102,000.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know whether my pronunciation is good, but
It was good.
thank you. So it will be 102,000. So the return is 2%. Okay, so this status is an equilibrium status, and we give it a name called the interest rate parity. So why is the interest rate parity? Is that the forward rate 1.34717 is set properly, and we cannot capitalize the higher interest rate in another country by using cover interest arbitrage. Okay, so this status is called interest rate parity. So I previously had a student, he is always struggle what is called parity. Parity means that's equilibrium status. And when we talk about interest rate parity, means that we cannot use cover interest arbitrage to profit. Okay. So when the home interest rate is lower than the foreign interest and forward rate is higher than a certain level, the certain level is 1.34717. The US investor will use cover interest arbitrage to get higher level of return, as we see 6% or 3.88%. As long as the forward rate is higher than this level, arbitrager will continually use cover interest arbitrage. And they're gonna selling forward the contract and put a downward pressure on the forward rate until the forward rate reduced to this level, 1.34717. This status is called the interest rate parity. This is the interest rate parity. And the interest rate parity is that if we conduct the cover interest arbitrage, we get the same return to the whole. Okay. So let's look at the British investor. Okay, right now you have British pound. The current spot rate is 1.4 and 90-day forward rate is 1.4. US interest rate is higher, 6%. UK interest rate is lower. And the British investor can also do cover interest arbitrage. On day one, they're gonna convert 100,000 British pound into US dollar by the spot rate. So they get 140,000 US dollar. And then they're gonna earn 6% more interest. And then we're gonna find that end up they have 148,400 US dollar principal plus interest. Okay, on day one, do you think British investor will sell forward British pound for the contract or buy British pound for the contract? So we're gonna sell or buy British pound for the contract. I'm gonna give you a little time. You can think about it or discuss by your classmates. How many of you guys think they should buy British pound for the contract? How many of you guys think they should sell the British pound for it? Sell. Okay, please discuss with your classmates. Think about it. Right now it's a British investor. And we talk about the British pound for the contract. No discussion? You're ready for answering the question? Okay, Eric Helen. Who is Eric? Do you think it's buy or sell? Buy. That put me in a difficult situation. Why do you think it's buy? Okay, I will give you half credit. Okay, Alisa.
They buy it because they're a British investor and it's for.
Yes. So you're gonna be buying because they are British investor. They want to buy British pound after they get US dollar. Okay, so they want to sell US dollar, but it's buy British pound. So this will put upward pressure on the forward rate. So on 90 days deposit matures, they're gonna fulfill their obligation by selling US dollar and convert it into British pound amount. British pound. This is forward rate. So it will be used US dollar amount divided by 1.4, that's the forward rate. So it will be 106,000 British pound. Return is 6%. Okay, who is benefited from the interest rate arbitrage? Cal.
Would it be the UK?
So UK investor will benefit from the cover interest arbitrage. And then we're gonna find that British pounds forward rate goes up because it's originally 1.4, but we keep buying it, the rate goes up to 1.428. So with this 1.428, the amount of British pound will be 103,921.58. This will put upward pressure on forward rate. And then we're gonna find that when the deposit matures, we can convert 148,400 US dollars into 103,921.57 British pounds. The return is around 3.9%. Do you think the UK investor will keep doing cover interest arbitrage? Correct? The rate for UK is 2%. Yeah, they will. The last one, I will leave it for you to calculate it. So the spot rate is 1.4. That's why after 90 days, the company still get 148,400, but the British pound rate increased to 1.4549. How much British pound the investor gonna get? UK investor gonna get? So let me see whether you get the correct answer. Trenton Krogman. Trenton. Who is Trenton? Trenton is not here. Is my pronunciation? I'm gonna put a question mark here. Nathan. Okay, thank you very much. So it's 102,000. So the return is 2%. Do you think a UK investor will still do the cover interest arbitrage? Sam? Do you think the UK investor will do the cover interest arbitrage? No.
Isn't it like the break-even point?
Yes, thank you very much. So the answer is no. Because it's equal to the UK's interest rate. So we're gonna find that when home interest rate is higher than the foreign interest rate, foreign rate is lower than a certain level. The certain level is 1.4549. The British investor will use cover interest arbitrage to get a higher level of. As long as the forward rate is lower than a certain level, arbitrage. This will put upward pressure on it until forward rate increase to a certain level. And then this is the so-called interest rate parity, okay? So equilibrium status. And I think next class we will officially talk about the interest rate parity. And if you haven't signed your name, come in and sign your name. If you sign your name and have no questions after this class, and hopefully see you this Thursday.
Oh, it's like